It was a tough time, and I joined the web platform to help make things better.
Okay. I'm KentTamura from Tokyo. I'm one of the API owners, and I worked on HTML forms, oil pan, and so on. I'm now working on HTML performance and compatibility project. Okay, next slide. Okay, this one. Oh, okay. Okay, who's at BlinkOn for? We have 120 attendees from 11 different affiliations. It's very viable that many Blink developers meet together. So please enjoy this opportunity. Sorry, please enjoy this opportunity. Okay. I'm afraid Australia is too far for some people, so there is only one opera guy. So it's sad. Yay! Okay, I'd like to summarize what we have done in the last 6 months. Intents, we had 135 intents in the last 6 months. This on BlinkOn 2, this number was smaller than 135, and on BlinkOn 3, this was larger than this. So the number of intents is not so changed. However, non-Google rate currently is 35% is decreasing. On BlinkOn 2, it was 61%. On BlinkOn 4, sorry, BlinkOn 3, it was 51%. So it is not a good trend. So if you have something prevents you from sending intents, please let us know. But however, we haven't investigated this data not yet. But this might be serious, might not be a serious problem. I guess this time we have a lot of intents about web audio and service worker, so it increase Google rate. Or non-Google rate might depend on a single person from Opera. So this depends on his condition. Next. Okay, this page shows what we have shipped in 6 months. We shipped a lot of things. Highlights are unprefixed encrypted media and unprefixed CSS animations. Brand new APIs such as Fetch API, Push API, Web MIDI, and Permissions API. Okay. Yeah, we continue to provide new capabilities to web developers. It's one of our current goals. Okay, this page shows removed web exposure features. We removed a lot of things. In this page, prefix gamepad API and animation prefix index database globals is a very good thing. And removing feature also always has a risk, but we should remove such obsolete features for long-term web health. Okay, this page shows completed projects which are not web exposed. Okay. New CS further, it has a great performance improvement. Index database also has massive performance improvement. Better service worker support in dev tools must have improved web developers' productivity. We improved JavaScript loading performance by stream script parsing and code caching. Blink scheduler started work, and we already moved some tasks to Blink scheduler. We have Blink scheduler session today. Pinch virtual report. I don't know much about this, but something is awesome. We have a report-related session tomorrow. A new set pop-up for Windows, Linux, and Chrome OS. This reduces code complexity and fixes multiple bugs. Okay. Also, it will remove thousands of lines of code. Okay. So lines of code. This graph shows lines of files in source, public, and tools, except for binary files. Surprisingly, we reduced 14% of lines. Ocean did this.
Yay!
This time, Ocean removed gardening server, and gardening server contained a huge file. So this decrease was done by a single file removal. Actually, our code size is slightly increasing. This has no problem, but we'd like to reduce code size if possible. But more important thing is reduce code complexity. So it's okay to reduce complexity by adding a code. For example, we split out painting code from layout classes. It increased lines of code slightly, but it reduced code complexity. That's okay. Number of commits. We had 55 commits per day. This number is not changed from previous BlinkOn. It was 52 commits per day. But we had a holiday season, these are not changed. It's good. And we contributors, we had 428 contributors. This number is also changed, but not so changed from last BlinkOn. So we keep our open committee. Yes, that's good. Okay, bugs. This is a summary of CI Blink bugs on our bug tracker. The first row shows number of filed bugs in 6 months before each of BlinkOn. The second row shows number of closed bugs in 6 months before each of BlinkOn. The third row shows total number of open bugs on each of BlinkOn. We closed 6,000 bugs in 6 months. It's very incredible result. However, number of filed bugs is greater than closed bugs, so of course, number of total open bugs are increasing. So we need more effort. That's all.
So it's been an exciting 6 months. We've launched a ton of great features and made huge improvements in the engine. I'm really excited that we shipped the Blink scheduler. We're finally able to reason about tasks and their priorities and when they run. It's really cool. But what's next? Which way does this go? Well, more of the same. We've been doing great work. Let's keep it up. So Dimitri, Jochen, and Chris introduced this goal at BlinkOn 3. Turns out our priorities haven't changed, so our goal is still the same. We still want to enable developers to make and maintain products that offer a modern user experience. So let's look at the next 6 months through that lens. We want to enable developers, give them capabilities they need to build their apps, capabilities that they might already have access to on other platforms. But we want to do it right, maintaining the principles of the web platform. We're making great progress on capabilities. The minimum viable APIs for a number of features are already on their way out. And as we have been for some time, we're still focused on mobile. But actually, as it turns out, these features which were inspired by our focus on mobile are just as important for the desktop web too. Push notifications are huge. We've only shipped a tiny API, but we're seeing tremendous uptake. Facebook, Pinterest, eBay, and many others are already starting to request the notification permission and push notifications to their users. We're seeing this great uptake because we're shipping features which are on the standards track. They have a path to becoming part of the web platform. We're actively having conversations with and working in collaboration with Mozilla and others. And these features, they give progressive enhancement. Your site's going to keep working even if you don't have push notifications. It just gets better when you do. Your site already works without a service worker. Once again, it just gets better when you have it. So this won't work for all features, but when we can build something in a manner that gives it progressive enhancement, we should, because it gives developers an opportunity to start using it almost immediately. Next, we want to make it easy for developers to make and maintain their products. We want to ship features that have good ergonomics, features that are simple, features that work well together, features that are hard to misuse, Rails to help ensure they're used correctly. We want to assist developer productivity. We should be building features that are reusable, features that have great tooling. So one biased example of great tools, Sam Lee, an engineer here in Sydney, shipped a tiny feature in DevTools. Basically a tiny little slider that lets you change the rate at which animations progress. Animations are often fast, only hundreds of milliseconds. So now you can slow them down, say to 1/10 the original speed, see what's really happening. A simple feature, right? Developers love it. Hugely positive response. Blog posts, tweets, there's videos on YouTube of people using and showing off the feature. And in this case, it was so simple. We already built an API for animation. We just had to hook it up. It turns out you can use that API in Blink too. It's not just a web API. There's lots of low-hanging fruit like this. There's plenty of other great tool work happening. Great support for service workers. Accessibility inspection is underway. And further enhancements for animations. This is actually a bit, this hasn't shipped yet. It's coming soon. So as we're building new features, we should make sure to keep tooling in mind. Some more on ergonomics. At BlinkOn 3, Ian Kilpatrick presented a bunch of experimentation around glitter, trying to answer questions like, what would it be like? What would it look like? What could we do if we could extend style, layout, and paint? Basically trying to explain CSS with new primitives. In February, the first Houdini meeting was held here in Sydney. Houdini is a task force born out of the CSS working group. They're tasked with explaining CSS, building out new primitives for style, layout, and paint. The meeting was a huge success. There's strong cross-vendor support for the proposals. There's something like 8 or more new specifications coming out of the effort. And the challenge now is to maintain that momentum and turn the positive support into a real API, and then ship it. So we're continuing to build and experiment with an extensible platform. So like custom elements and web components, the Houdini features will help rationalize the platform. If we're successful, library authors could, for example, build a new layout system like Flexbox on top of custom layout. They could build graphical effects like the material design ripple effect when you press a button and the ink ripples out on top of custom paint. Doing it this way, building on top of extensible primitives, developers are able to shortcut years of specification work that it would take to make those features part of the platform itself. So there's also this dream, or this question, that once we have this extensibility, do we really need to implement new layout systems in the engine? Do we have to keep growing the computed style every time we add a new CSS property? Ideally not. Ideally, we would be building these new high-level features, like say snap points, on top of our low-level primitives, like compositor worker or custom properties. But primitives take time to specify and ship. And we've been here before with BlinkOn.js. But for many features, the roadblock there was tough performance, memory, and power constraints. There have been some recent discussions about a new proposal, effectively building the layering that we desire, but punting on JavaScript, building it out in C++. It's early days, it's an ongoing discussion, and one I hope we can make progress on here at BlinkOn. So we also want to help developers build a modern user experience. And most of all, a modern user experience needs performance. Performance, performance. Animation, responsiveness, touch, interaction are all areas that are pushing hard on performance. There's everything going on from engine work, new features, and experimentation happening here too. Houdini's custom paint could have a huge impact on performance. It could dramatically reduce the number of DOM elements and the amount of styling that's required to build conceptually simple effects. At BlinkOn 3, Ian Volek presented UI Worker, and this is firming up as Compositor Worker. You've probably seen the intent to implement. It's now another piece of Houdini. The concept is simple. Yet another opportunity to plug your own JavaScript code into the style, layout, paint, composite pipeline. This time, tweaking compositable properties, opacity, transform, possibly even replacing whole layers. It's really exciting. On top of a primitive like this, a developer could possibly implement advanced accelerated CSS animations. That's really exciting. So also at BlinkOn 3, Dimitri, Jochen, and Chris presented Midnight Train, the 4-stage performance model. We have a new acronym, RAIL. We've come to love the model. It makes sense. It's easy to explain. We want to get developers onto Rails. It's a huge priority for the team. But so far, while we love the model, we haven't been as focused as we should be. There are efforts around building a rail metric, but we're not there yet. Before we can make solid progress here, we need a good understanding of where we are. Several teams have goals around Midnight Train. First, for their component or system, trying to build an understanding or model for its behavior. This is often done by adding tracing or other instrumentation to better analyze the system as it's executing. Then once we have a good understanding and metrics to understand our changes, we can make targeted improvements. If you're working on a system that does any work on the main thread, deals with input, animation, actually if you're working on anything, if you're not thinking about Midnight Train, then I'd urge you to consider the implications, maybe set some additional goals. We must have data in order to make accurate decisions. It's an ongoing priority for our team. We believe in the model. Now we need to execute and make it a reality for pages on the web. Once again, it's an ongoing conversation and one that I hope we can have here at BlinkOn. So we're also building better metrics. We're trying to answer this question. What is performance in the wild? We already have plenty of metrics, but they're metrics in isolation. For example, we have pretty good coverage of features. We know how many page loads use, say, the marquee element. We know how many page loads are handled by service worker. But we don't know when these two things are happening together or when that's causing a problem. I guess for this specific case, we'd hope that that's never causing a problem, but we don't know. We have specific performance metrics too. We know how long it takes to open an IndexedDB database, and we can improve on that metric. But we don't know when that event is occurring. If it happens during the load in Rail, well, that's probably fine. But if it happens during an animation and it somehow impacts the main or compositor threads, then that could be a problem. And again, in the wild, we don't know. It's early days, but there are folks working on this problem. I won't go into details now, but it's suffice to say, we're going to have a lot of data, and we're going to be able to learn a lot about our system and execution in the wild. After everything we've been through, there's still a ton more exciting work going on inside the engine. I'm sorry if your project's not up there. It's very hard to get a list of everything we're working on because there's just so much stuff. But this is a sample. Yes, oil pan's happening. Swimming paint is making good progress. There's just a ton of great stuff. So there's several sessions here at BlinkOn for updates on individual areas. So I'd encourage you to attend those if you're interested. And finally, we're getting organized. We've kind of had this ongoing debate about owners since we started the Blink project. I think we're at a point now where, as a team, we're comfortable making changes here. And the number of owners files is growing slowly. We're starting to see these area-specific teams form. There are new mailing lists. There are weekly snippets being sent out. Some groups are starting to publish their objectives on the Chromium Wiki. And I think it's great that we're starting to build coverage for our code base. Now we're starting to see people appear in different corners of the code who care about the long-term health of both code and features, and who we can go to ask questions about the relative complexity of making changes in certain areas or the relative priorities of different features. I'm excited for us to work together to build better structures to help support our work. So to recap, it's been a great 6 months. Our priorities haven't changed, so our goal is still the same. We've shipped many new capabilities, with many more in the pipeline. We've made huge improvements to our engine. The schedule has shipped, OilPan is on the horizon. We're continuing to build and experiment with an extensible platform. We're making good progress on Midnight Train, but we need to be careful to focus on building and improving on a metric for Rail. And finally, we're getting organized and ensuring coverage for our code base. So, BlinkOn 5 will be in another 6 months in November, as usual. And following our bi-yearly round the world schedule, we'll be somewhere in the Bay Area. So that's it from us. We're not going to take questions right now, but if you have some, please find us afterwards or save them for the panel tomorrow. Have a great BlinkOn, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, so I forgot to mention earlier, there is a Q&A session at the end of the day tomorrow. If you go in the one-pager, you can find a link to the Google moderator for that, so you can add questions that can be asked there. So you have some questions about this content, or for these folk, they'll both be on the panel, so you can ask them there. So now you can take a look at the one-pager to find out what sessions are going on next, and head over to those rooms in the next 20 minutes or so. Thank you.
Yeah, there were some later ones. Has it always been 2 days? How many do you always have 2 tracks?